Hello and welcome back into another episode of The Hard Fowl. I'm your host, Pearson Fowler. With me, as always, from GamecockCentral.com, Collyn Taylor. Standing up today.
Yes.
You sit down often, but you've been sitting in a car all day. You're literally just getting back to Columbia from Auburn, Alabama. You went and witnessed South Carolina lose by 13 points to the Auburn Tigers, 80-67. Jermaine Couisnard missed three late was the difference in Carolina covering and not as the Gamecocks went into the game plus
free
11.
Throws too.
I know. Yeah, a bunch of them, 6 of them out of only 9.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. It was an interesting game for a lot of reasons. On the one hand, you and I just sat here and said, yeah, not a whole lot to say. Auburn's just better than Carolina. They were supposed to win by 11. They won by 13. It's on the road. It's a top 16 team, a top 20 net team, and Carolina was missing their second best player, their third best player, depending on where you put Keyshawn Bryant. They were missing Trey Hannibal in their backcourt, and they could have used a little more juice from their guards at some point during the game last night. But on the other hand, there's a lot to say about this game. So first of all, give me your perspective. Was this the first time you had been to Auburn for a basketball game?
Yes. Left thoroughly impressed. One of the best basketball atmospheres I've been around.
Really?
It's perfect for college basketball. Seats 10,000 right under. And, I mean, the noise sits on top of you. The facility is really beautiful. They marketed the Final Four run almost perfectly. It's, I mean, what every small college basketball arena should be. And, I mean, I left pretty impressed. It reminded me a lot of Florida, which is another really fun venue to cover a game.
Yeah, well, that's a glowing review. How was the crowd? I mean, it was a weird game for Auburn, too. But
yeah, crowd was pretty good. It's easy to fill a 9,000 seat, so I'd say it was probably 80 to 90% full, and the students were there, packed student section. Yeah, I left thoroughly impressed with what I saw from the Auburn facilities. It
was a sloppy start to the game. From your perspective, obviously you get a better view of it, you know, the like armchair psychologist angle for South Carolina and for Auburn. Auburn missed 9 of their first 10 shots, if I remember correctly. South Carolina had 7 turnovers in the first 10 minutes. Did the teams look tight? Did the teams look nervous? You know, Carolina having a chance to get out ahead of things, and Auburn having a lot to prove, having lost their last 2 games. What was the vibe, I guess, like in the pregame and then that early start?
The vibe pregame, I thought both teams looked confident. South Carolina seemed to be in the zone and kind of loose the way, I mean, they always kind of look loose and focused at the same time. It's shoot around. Every team's going to look that way. But I thought South Carolina started that game probably about as well as they could, which made you a little nervous given the fact they were only up like 7 at the under 12 or whatever it was. But they started well. The defense was playing well. Auburn was missing threes, which is what you needed to have happen. Then Devin Cambridge happened, and it was all all downhill from there. And they showed some fight. I'll give them credit. They were running to loose balls, which I didn't expect. I mean, Mike Kotsar was like wrestling balls away from Austin Wiley, and you had all of this. Everything that could have happened good happened. They were hitting shots early. They were shooting 50% at one point, and Auburn was, I think, 1 for 6 on their first 6 threes. So you had about as good of a start as you could have anticipated against a top 25 team on the road. And then, as is problems with South Carolina this year, inconsistency hit, and they just couldn't sustain it.
Let's start with Devin Cambridge. That's kind of the big storyline coming out of this game. 26 points for a guy that was averaging, I think, 3 points a game coming in. He had hit 7 threes in the last 17 games. So for the entire season, he hit 7 threes. And last night he hits 6 of his 9, including as part of his 10 of 14 overall shooting. I was watching with my roommates here in Columbia. I didn't get to go. And, they were, I guess, sort of espousing the old chicken curse. It's like, yeah, that this would happen.
That's so South Carolina.
It is so
like
South
the Grayson
Carolina.
Lambert setting an NCAA record vibes to it. Yeah.
What was that like to watch? Just a guy that come out of nowhere and absolutely heat check.
It's no matter who you, and we don't root for people, no matter who you have a stake in or who you're covering, it's still cool to watch a dude just pop off for 26 points. Like Wes Myers against Florida a couple years back, just watching him, whatever he jacked up was going in. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was fun to watch. Auburn, they went 10 of 26, which is kind of on par for what they do, right around 35%. And, it always seemed to happen at like the exact right time. Like they'd miss 8 in a row, and then they'd hit like boom, 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 and you hit 4 in a row. So it was fun to watch Devin Cambridge do that. That Auburn offense is as NBA an offense as I've seen in college basketball in a very long time. But yeah, it was fun to watch just because they're that good.
The timing is, I'm glad you brought that up because that was a really important part of last night because it felt like Carolina was getting absolutely buried in threes. And then, like you said, just 10 of 27, 37%. That's better than they've shot the last couple games, but it's not an outrageous shooting night. And in fact, South Carolina shot better from the floor than Auburn did. They were 47.5% for the game. Auburn was 45.5%, which is one of those things you look at in the box score and say, hey, maybe look like it would have been closer than 13 points. We can get into a more extensive breakdown of South Carolina's generally positive night statistically, but the timing is so important. You mentioned South Carolina, despite the early turnovers, including 2 on the first possession, which is kind of hard to do, to turn it over twice in the same possession.
It's very South Carolina this year where they go on like a 12-2 run
right
after that.
So 7 turnovers in the first 10 minutes, which means only 5 afterwards, which is nice. But Auburn was missing some shots. Carolina was playing some good defense. You mentioned, Mike Kotsar getting some uncharacteristically big physical rebounds. Justin Minaya got a couple. Carolina was playing pretty well, and you felt not great because you felt like they should have had a little bit more of a lead. But then South Carolina goes on a dry spell, which they do, and you chronicled it on GamecockCentral.com, and you're right up after the game. It was either 4 or 5 minute scoreless stretch in the first half, and then it was basically the same thing at one point in the second half, and it was a 14-1 run for Auburn in the first half and a 14-0 run for South Carolina in the second half. But the difference is when South Carolina was missing those shots, Auburn was able to capitalize, and when Auburn was missing shots, Carolina was not able to capitalize. And as much as it's a cliche to say that basketball is a game of runs, it feels especially true for South Carolina, and I feel like that was the story of the game for Carolina last night.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that cliche to no end, but when you look at a game like that, South Carolina went on a run to go up 7, then Auburn goes on a bigger run to go up 10, and then South Carolina go. I mean, it's one of those things where there weren't a whole lot of times last night where teams were just trading buckets, where you saw that against Florida, you saw that against Tennessee and Kentucky, and where they play last Texas A&M. You saw that. And this was kind of like reminiscent of some of South Carolina's woes in the non-con, where they had stretches where you rush things and the ball just doesn't go in the basket. And it's a problem. And it comes with, I don't think it's a coincidence that when South Carolina was playing well, Jair Bolden was shooting well, A.J. Lawson was shooting well, and Jermaine Couisnard was playing well at the point. I don't think that's a coincidence. And when those guys dried up, it was nothing was going in at that point, because then Auburn can collapse in the paint and make Mike Kotsar beat him. And Mike Kotsar is not going to single-handedly beat a team unless it's Mississippi State. So that was the problem, is that guard play was so inconsistent last night, as it has been for stretches this season. And that's kind of why they lost.
I think that's why this is such an interesting game, because I think we can all agree that the guard play wasn't what it needed to be. South Carolina shooting only 9 free throws has a lot to do with South Carolina not having guys that can attack downhill. You know that Mike Kotsar is not going to be someone you just dump it off to in the post like Kerry Blackshear that's going to shoot 8 or 10 free throws because he's just going to hammer the post. So you're always having to get that from your backcourt and from your wings. You're obviously down Keyshawn Bryant, which is a huge part of it, but A.J. Lawson, who, I don't know, played a little bit better. He was
efficient at least.
He had his best game of SEC play so far.
Yeah, I mean, just
11
in terms
points,
of
4 rebounds, and assists, a steal, a block. Still had 3 turnovers. But yeah, 4 of 8, 1 of 3 on 3, made both of his free throws, but it's still not attacking downhill.
It's a lot of spot-up shooting with him.
Right. Couisnard, I guess, attacks the most of anybody, but Bolden is also not attacking downhill. And then when you don't have Bryant, I mean, that really just leaves Couisnard to drive sometimes, and he's trying to do kind of a whole lot of everything. Couisnard continues to at least score well. He was efficient last night. He was 16 points on 7 of 14 shooting. So I guess it was like 26 points on, I don't remember what the shooting breakdown.
9 of 22 against Kentucky or
something like that. Yeah. And then last game was like 17 points on 7 of 15. In this game, 16 points on 7 of 14. So getting slightly more efficient. Which I guess
he's shooting better. He's kind of figuring out where he is, what his spots are on the court in his game.
But you really, I think, felt the absence of Keyshawn Bryant, because again, you get 11 of 22 shooting from A.J. Lawson and Jermaine Couisnard for 27 points. It's like, oh, that's pretty good, but it's not that effective in the context of the game because of how they were getting it. And I guess just to go back to not necessarily attacking, not having the free throws, Carolina misses that element of attacking the rim, and that's 2 straight games where they have fewer than 10 free throw attempts. And it's not because the refs are calling the game poorly or because they hate South Carolina. They're just not putting themselves in a position to get fouled.
Yeah, shocker that when you take contested jump shots and then spot up threes, you don't get fouls called. I mean, it's just that's the nature of the business. And this is the first time under Frank Martin this team's gone back-to-back games with less than 10 free throws. Last time it happened.
That shouldn't happen ever.
No.
So it's not a surprise that that's the first.
No. Over the last 10 years, it's only happened twice. So that shows you how kind of an anomaly this is, and it's because Jair Bolden's game is not get downhill and attack the rim. That's not his game. A.J. Lawson's game should be that. Jermaine Couisnard's game is absolutely that, and you saw it. He got to the line 5 times, only made 1, which is a problem. But
who's the best free throw shooter on the team going into SEC play?
I was thinking about it today. I think he's just better in the motion of the offense. Like when he's catch and shoot threes, he's not as good as it's when it's just in the flow of like catch, pull, like dribble, beat a guy off, coming off a screen, pull up. He knocks those down at a pretty consistent rate. But if he's got a spot up, he's not as good. And obviously, when you're shooting free throws, more than likely your feet are set. But they just don't have a guy like that. And Mike Kosar's not a guy that's going to draw a lot of fouls. And Wilden Zavek, who actually played pretty damn well.
Mm-hmm. Especially early on. Drew a charge, got a couple of big rebounds.
Yeah, and I just don't – he's not as good of a free throw shooter to where you can say you feel comfortable, dumping it into the low post with him and saying just draw as much contact as possible and see if you can finish. So will he get there? Probably, but he's just not there as a freshman 17 games into his career.
Part of the reason that I think Carolina fans shouldn't be too concerned, obviously the fact that they're 2-3, which is what they needed to be through 5 games. You were supposed to lose this game, by BPI, by the spread, by KenPom, whatever. This is a good team. There's no shame in losing this game. But part of the other reason that you feel okay is I think you're still getting good enough performances. Like I said, Couisnard still scored pretty well. Mike Kosar, his scoring average has certainly dipped. He's only averaging 4 points a game in the last 3 games, 0, 6, and 6, but still had a pretty good game. 6 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, added a block. He and Wilden Zavek combined to play really good defense on Austin Wiley, who finished the game with just 8 and 6.
Yeah, below his averages. Yeah, is what you want from him.
It's kind of exactly like the game plan kind of worked. Like if you're Carolina going into this game, you're not going to have Keyshawn Bryant. It's like, all right, do what you can, take a lot of outside shots, don't let Austin Wiley absolutely crush you. He shot only 1 of 4 from the field, only played 20 minutes. You kind of did what you needed to. Okoro only scored 8 points. Purfo only scored 4 points. Like the game plan going into the game was probably like, okay, do what we can to take these guys out. And if somebody like Devin Cambridge happens to go off for 26, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. That's exactly what happened. And I'm not saying that the difference in Carolina winning or losing this game was Keyshawn Bryant, but they did everything they were supposed to. Auburn got an outstanding shooting night from someone that they weren't necessarily expecting to get an outstanding shooting night from, and you were missing maybe your most important playmaker. I think AJ he's certainly not playing like the best player, but he is the player with the highest upside. Mike Kosar has been your most consistent player. Right now, Jermaine Couisnard's your best scorer, but I think in terms of unlocking this offense, what Keyshawn Bryant offers off the bounce, attacking the rim, is important to this offense in a way that's really hard to notice except when he's not there.
Yeah, and I think that Auburn, if you take 1 through 14 in the SEC, Auburn's probably the most athletic team, and if not, they're like second or third. And you take your best athlete off the floor when Keyshawn Bryant's not out there. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you like to have your best athlete on the floor playing against one of the most athletic teams in the SEC? Of course you would.
Especially when you're going to play a lot of zones, so it's about getting arms in passing lanes and things like that. And Auburn found way too many open shooters in the corner.
Yeah, and do I think that South Carolina wins with Keyshawn in there? That's a lot of revisionist history, but I don't think Auburn goes on a 14-0 run or a 14-2 run or a 19-4 run or whatever the hell they went on. Because you have such a good defender in Keyshawn Bryant, you have such a good athlete on the floor in Keyshawn Bryant, you probably play a little bit more efficiently offensively. You probably limit some of their drive and kick opportunities because he is so good about closeouts. He's probably their best closeout defender. Him and Minaya are just so good at closing out on the perimeter.
Mm-hmm. Well, the long arms helps.
Yeah, I mean, when you got like a 7-foot wingspan, it feels like. So they desperately missed him. And when you're having to play, even though you got good minutes from Levesque, and some up and down minutes from McCreary, those guys are still freshmen that have only been, this is their first test of SEC play. So I think Bryant, I don't think it would have been a 23-point lead for Auburn in the second half. I don't think it would have been a 13-point game. I think it makes it a little bit closer than what the score necessarily indicates if he's out there.
Right, and you say, maybe Bryant scores 13 points. That makes up the deficit, but 13 points is not exactly a reflection because Auburn, like you said, they were up by 23. They had really pulled away. That was more like a 15 to 20-point game than a 13-point game. But in terms of just, again, looking at signs of encouragement, I mentioned, Kotsar, his scoring's dipped a little bit, but continues to play well all around. Couisnard looks like he could actually be a 15-point per game kind of scorer, which, after Kentucky, it's like, well, he's not going to score 26 a game. How much is this going to regress? It looks like he's pretty comfortable taking 10, 12, 14, 15 shots a game and scoring 16. If he can make free throws, he could actually be a 20-point per game kind of scorer. I feel like Lawson was playing a little bit better. Benaya is rounding into form. Only 2 of 7 from 3, but 6 of 12 overall from the field. Continues to rebound well. 7 rebounds, added 3 assists and a steal in that game as well. And we mentioned just how important it is when you have your glue guy going like that. You add Bryant back into that. Obviously we can do revisionist history all day long, but it was already a good statistical performance. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Carolina outshot Auburn from the field, 47.5%. They got an average 3-point shooting performance, 6 of 21. You're not going to shoot 16 to 30 every game.
No, that's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, 6 of 21 is probably about what you're going to get. You'd like that to be closer to 6 of 18 or 7 of 21 or whatever. The free throw shooting, we talked about a little bit. That's just not going to change. Just get to the rim, give yourself more chances. But Carolina's not all of a sudden going to be a great free throw shooting team. They might have a great night, which, by the way, I mentioned I was watching the game with my roommates, and to go back to the quote-unquote chicken curse, it was like, he told me, he's like, I really wish I didn't know that Auburn was such a bad free throw shooting team because they hit 18 of 21 of them last night, and it's like, of course, that would happen.
The Grayson Lambert, 96% completion percentage.
Yeah, exactly. Carolina had 16 assists on 29 made baskets, which is a good percentage for them. Still 1 fewer assists than Auburn. They had 7 steals, 3 block shots. What was impressive to me is they only had 2 shots blocked. Now, part of that is tied in with the free throws, not necessarily attacking the rim very much, but Auburn is the best team in the SEC at blocking shots. 12 turnovers, about average. That's fine. Like that's a very decent
That's what you're
going
to get from South Carolina.
Right.
You come to expect
and like anywhere you look, that's not a bad number. And what was really great is the last 30 minutes. So you only had 5 turnovers in 30 minutes, which is tremendous because it was 7 in the first 10, as I mentioned. But by percentages, like a pretty decent night, and it makes it look like, it was probably closer to a 13-point game or a 10-point game or a 5-point game. But this was the first time, I said this on my local show, so if y'all listen to that today, sorry for sounding repetitive. This was the first time this season, and especially when you contrast it with what happened against Kentucky and what happened against A&M, where South Carolina won those games because of their depth. They get into foul trouble, and Kentucky gets into foul trouble, and Carolina just feels a little bit more comfortable going a little deeper in its bench, and that was enough to buoy South Carolina long enough that they could get back into the game. Obviously, we talked about that ad nauseum last week. In the Texas A&M game, you're down 3 important players. Moss coming off his best game, Hannibal giving you energy off the bench, and Bryant after just 3 minutes of the game. You still have enough depth that you can cobble together a 14-point road win in the SEC. And we talked about how that was always the upside of this team is the depth. When you're missing Bryant, when you're missing Hannibal, and when Frank gives you just 1 minute for whatever reason.
Yeah.
This, for the first time this year, felt like Carolina was shorthanded. They just didn't have enough guys.
No, and they have athletes on the floor, but when some of your best athletes are kind of slumping and not playing as well as they need to, or freshmen, it's hard to compete with an Auburn team that has senior athletes that are really long, really athletic. And you can only ask Justin Minaya, who played, I think, tremendously. You can only ask Jermaine Couisnard and Mike Kotsar to do so much. And when Auburn's playing as well as they are, and Devin Cambridge is going off for 26, there ain't a whole lot you can do other than hold on and kind of hope they cool off at some point.
This was a good loss.
Yeah, it's not a bad loss. No.
Because it's Auburn and because of all these things that we're mentioning. And it sounds like, I don't know if people are going to hear this and think that we're making excuses, but it's like, in spite of these things, Carolina was able to hang around until Auburn just absolutely
turned into
blew
a team
the
that
doors off.
Came off a Final Four last year.
Right, exactly. And it wasn't even because Auburn just overpowered South Carolina. They were just like, okay, well, we're going to do this and you can't stop us, because it was coming from, they did, and Carolina needed to be a lot better defensively, but I just go back to Devin Cambridge not really being someone that was in the game plan. South Carolina wasn't like, got a key on Devin Cambridge, you can't let him beat you. Now, Frank Martin said after the game that he was in their scouting report, despite the fact that he was a 20% three-point shooter. They counted on him being someone that was capable. But like I said earlier, by and large, Carolina was like, okay, don't let Austin Wiley kill you on the glass and give him 1 million extra possessions. Auburn won the offensive rebounding battle, but just by 1, 9-8 was that margin. You know what Okoro can do? Didn't he score like 27 the game before or something like that?
He's been playing really well in SEC play.
And you take him, mostly out of the game. Just 3 of 7 shooting. He missed his 1 3-point attempt. Just 8 points for him. He did have 7 assists, which was, still a good, efficient night for him there in terms of his assist-to-turnover ratio, just the 1 turnover. But that's kind of what you needed to go in there and do, and just hope that these other guys didn't kill you. And that's exactly what happened. So not only is Carolina still in a position where 11 or 12 wins in conference is not out of reach, but a quality loss, a competitive loss, and one in which I really think Keyshawn Bryant's presence would have made a difference. Maybe not a win or loss, but that's the difference in covering the spread or not, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, and I think that if I told you on Tuesday Devin Cambridge was going to be Auburn's leading scorer, you sign up for that. You sign up for the fact that this dude that's averaging 3 points a game is going to go out there and lead Auburn in scoring.
Yeah,
hell
cool.
Yeah,
Carolina's going to win 50-10.
Yeah, sign you up for that. And it's just one of those things, you get hot at the right time, and the guy knocks down 6 3-pointers. So this is a loss. I think even if looking at the schedule in whenever it came out in September or August or September, what it was, all the way until Tuesday night, I think fans chalk this up as a loss because Auburn is one of the more talented teams in the SEC. They've been one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC since Pearl took over, really. Coming off a Final Four, you kind of expected this to be a loss. And should you be happy that this team lost? But no, but they went on the road in the SEC and played a top 25 team that's talented that was coming off a 2-game losing streak. Your odds in that one aren't great to begin with. Now, South Carolina matched up with them well at times, but at the end of the day, Auburn's a better team. Top to bottom, I just think they're more talented.
Let's do a little stock up, stock down.
Oh, new game.
Yeah, new game. So A.J. Lawson was my reverse jinx for this game. And he didn't play great, but he continues to, I think, work himself back incrementally, marginally, with each passing game. He hit a couple shots at the end of the Texas A&M game. He said after the game, or maybe it was during media availability on Monday, I can't remember, but basically he said, I needed that. I needed to see some of those shots go in. They did. He still wasn't as involved as you need to see from AJ. He still only took 8 shots. That number on a per-game basis probably needs to be closer to 12 to 15 with similar efficiency because he needed to be going to the hoop more. But he made both of his free throws. It looks like his shot's falling a little more than it was. It seems like he's working back into form, and Carolina absolutely needs that for this stretch run here in the SEC. Well, not quite in the stretch run because you and I broke it up into 5, 5, and 8. So he's got these next 5 games against 4 very beatable opponents and one opponent that looks more beatable with each passing week because Arkansas lost their 3rd SEC game last night as well.
They're very soft. Top 25.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a hot start for them. They were like one of the hottest teams coming into conference play, and 3-3 since the start of conference play. But he's basically got these 5 games to work out whatever else because Carolina's going to need him for those last 8 games. They got to play Georgia twice. They got to play Mississippi State twice. They have to play LSU. A lot of tough games, a lot of winnable games. Are you buying that A.J. Lawson's stock is rising, or has he just kind of plateaued these last couple games?
I think he's rising, especially compared to where he was in December and beginning of January. I don't hate what he did against Auburn. Does he need to take more shots? Yes. Does he need to be more involved in the offense? Yes. Does he need to foul less and turn the ball over less? Yes. In terms of efficiency, outside of the turnovers, 4 for 8, and you make 33% of your threes, 1 of 3.
And all your free throws.
And
hit the glass.
Yeah, sign you up for that. That's what you need from A.J. Lawson. You just extrapolate that into 12 shots, 15 shots, then you're starting to talk about what A.J. Lawson needs to be. You add on another 3 there, maybe, and another 2 to talk about just adding and extrapolating. That's 5 more points. That's 16 points, 4 rebounds, take away 1 turnover. That's kind of what you need from him. Mm-hmm. The only problem is he's just not getting used enough, and that's on him mm-hmm. because he's just passing up opportunities. Because of the slump, other players are stepping up, so they don't need him as much. I'm reading off percent of possessions used. The guys that had more than him, Mania, Kusnard, obviously, Jair Bolden, TJ Moss, and Jalen McCreary all had more.
McCreary had a higher usage rate than
For when he was in the game, yeah.
Right. Yeah, McCreary only played 14 minutes in the game, 4 points.
He had
4 rebounds, 2 assists.
Yeah, 18%
2 steals.
of possessions were either went through him or ended with him when he was on the floor, 16 for AJ.
Yeah.
So
man,
you need to use him more, and that's in part because AJ's not playing up to snuff at times, and that's also in part because you're getting really good minutes from Kusnard, you're getting really good minutes from Minaya. But you need AJ to play in that same range that Minaya does. Minaya finished at 18%. Jared Bolden at 26%, which is not what you want. I think
no, especially shooting 4 of 12.
Yeah, you need most of that to go back to AJ. So if AJ's doing maybe 21 and Jair's doing 16 or 18 or whatever, that's kind of more what you need. But yeah, you just need more from AJ Lawson. So I'll say stock up to get back to your original question. It's very long-winded.
That's good. And I guess to get back to the shot distribution, Bolden 4 of 12. He did play 21 minutes, which was the most off the bench. I guess one thing that's interesting and worth mentioning about AJ's game and AJ's, I feel like, recent gradual uptick, and probably a fair thing to look at with a Frank Martin team, just the way that he uses players, the way that he sets them, the way that he plays them. If someone plays a lot, there's only so badly he can be playing. Because if he's really that bad doing everything else, even if he's not shooting great, if he's that bad defending, that bad energy, Frank's just not going to play him. And he's done it with AJ. He's done it with AJ multiple times this year. AJ played not only a team high, but a game high, 37 minutes. So Frank, I think that says to me that Frank believes in, even if it's very gradual, the continued upward trajectory of AJ. But to get back to Bolden, 21 minutes, which is the most off the bench, 4 of 12. I think probably a comfortable range for him is more like 6 or 7 shots. So you take away 6 shots there, you give 4 of them to AJ and 2 of them to Keyshawn. Minaya, 6 of 12. You don't necessarily want Minaya to shoot less, I guess, because
he's playing so well.
He's playing well and he's scoring efficiently, but like maybe long term he's instead of a 10 to 12, he's like an 8 to 10 kind of guy. So that's another couple shots. You give 1 to AJ, another one to Keyshawn. Same thing with Cousinard. 14's fine if he can continue to score about 16 points a game, make more free throws, but just do it on 8 to 10 shots a game. And then you get AJ. You basically get AJ Bryant taking 12 shots a game, Cousinard taking 8 to 10, Minaya taking 8 to 10, Kozar taking like 4 to 7, something like that. And then Bolden will give you 6 off the bench. McCreary, I think he goes like 2 for 2 or 2 for 3 or 2 for 4. He just makes 2 field goals, and he never takes more than 4, and he always makes 2, and he always finishes with 4 points and 4 rebounds.
He has in SEC play alone, he has a 152.9 offensive rating, which it doesn't mean that he's going off for 20 a night. It just means when he's touching that ball, more often than not, it's going in the hoop or something productive is going to happen.
He's a really interesting player, and I keep being surprised. I feel like he always ends up handling the ball in random places on the court. Like he brought it up one time and turned it over.
Yeah, he was like running a fast break.
Yeah, he ran a fast break.
It was dribbling up to his chest, but he was running a fast break.
He had the ball like outside the 3-point arc a couple times. I think just like on a dribble handoff, like running pick and roll or something like that. But he's an interesting player. He's so athletic. He moves really well, but he's still bull in a china shop. He's got a little Silva in him.
Yeah, I see a lot of Silva in Jalen and Wilden's, to where they're like they don't know what the hell they're doing half the time.
Wilden's a little stiffer. McCreary seems to have a little bit more of that spring and fluidity like Chris did.
And I think Wilden's, and I've talked to his high school coach about it, he always said that with Wilden's, you had to tell him from the jump of a game, you are our top offensive threat. Because Wilden's, he's just not of that mindset. He's more of like, I want to do whatever best for the team. I'm going to pass the ball well. I'm going to rebound, and I'm just going to do dirty work. So Wilden's is a little bit more stiffer in that regard because he's not thinking about scoring, whereas Jalen's like, let me get my head down to the rim, dunk, rebound, whatever I need to do, similar to Wilden's, but a little bit more scoring mentality with it. But I like both of their games a lot. I thought Wilden's gave you so much against Wiley, and just over the course of a game. I only played 13 minutes, but he gave you a lot. Yeah,
he and McCreary are becoming really reliable and like almost interchangeable. McCreary offers you a little bit more. I think probably Levesque's more solid defensively, like just seems to be in the right place a little bit more often, but McCreary maybe offers you a little more upside. We talked about I think it was against Texas A&M, it may have been Kentucky, a nice pass out of a double team to find Kozar for an assist, had another couple dimes in this game too, and one of them I feel was like a pretty slick drop off underneath the basket. Like he's just got a good feel for the game. Yeah. So good minutes for McCreary. Moss, not a good game. 2 points, 2 assists, 2 turnovers, 1 of 3 from the field, 15 minutes. We gave Moss his dues when he had the nice game against, was it against Kentucky or Kentucky?
Yeah. Probably his best half of his career,
He was not in the Texas A&M game. Played a really nice half, played a really good game, finished with 10 points and some assists, and made a 3, I think, or something in the Kentucky game. I don't want to say that was the worst thing that happened to him, because obviously Carolina needed that, and good for TJ Moss, and obviously part of him playing 15 minutes had to do with the fact that Trey Hannibal is not back with the ankle injury, and we'll talk about his status going forward as Carolina gets ready to welcome Vanderbilt to the Colonial Life Arena on Saturday. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Moss, that you hoped that what he did against Kentucky would have been sort of a boon for him, a confidence boost, shoot a little bit more, shoot a little better, not turn the ball over so much, but I'm worried that it's now back to the TJ Moss that Carolina fans watched for the first 16 games of the season.
Yeah, I think he struggled, but I think a lot of that, especially with all these guards, we're talking a lot about what they did wrong, but Auburn's defense was really good, and their guards are really good about pressuring you, and I don't think they understood how to defend that kind of pressure from guards that remind me a lot physically of what Sindarius and Dwayne were their senior years. The guys that have been through the wars, have been to a Final Four, guys that understand how college basketball works, and TJ Moss, who's 20 games into his college career at this point. So I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that Auburn just played really good defense. TJ Moss obviously struggled and turned it over and couldn't hit shots, but that was across the entire team sometimes. So I think a lot of it had to do with what Auburn was doing in terms of, and even Frank said it, they couldn't pass. That Auburn just denied and denied and denied. And because of that, South Carolina couldn't get the ball inside. They couldn't get the shots they wanted to at times, and it kind of compounded. I
forgot to get to the other half of our stock up, stock down, and I'm a bad host, so I'm just like combining this into like an awkward buy or sell.
I like this like cattywampus kind of way of doing things, of like roping in different stuff here.
Yeah, normally I have like my rundown all in front of me, but this is a little more flying off the cuff, seat of my pants. Yeah, a little more organic. I'm looking at things and trying to keep everything straight in my head. The other one that I wanted to get to, again, this is like a combo stock up, stock down / buy or sell. So I will say, are you concerned with Mike Kotsar's scoring regression in the last 3 games?
A little bit. He hasn't shot the ball as well as he had in, I guess, his non-con or whatever it was, but I think that's too. He's playing better competition. I think he's playing a lot better defenses. Wiley's a really good defensive center.
His defense has been consistent.
The defense has not dropped off one bit. Yeah. But I think it's in part just playing better competition, night in and night out. And I think, too, he doesn't need to be the guy. They're not drawing up plays for him consistently because they don't need to. Because Jermaine Couisnard stepped up. Justin Minaya is playing his best basketball
in 2 years.
Probably his career, yeah. I mean, he's playing his best basketball, so he's going to take some of Mike's possessions. Jermaine's going to do that as well. And then you got to still try to get AJ involved. So some of the points and possessions that were drawn up for Mike earlier in the season are going to other guys, so there's less chances. And since he's regressed some shooting, you're not seeing the same kind of production because of it.
And I think the other part of him playing better competition, especially, I mean, it's been really tough for him these first 5 games.
Teams are keen on him now, probably too.
A little bit of that, and he's having to expend a lot more energy on the defensive end of the floor. So he's probably got just a little bit less in the tank left for offense. He played 35 minutes, which I mean, I don't know exactly what he's playing, per game this year, but it's probably like 35, 36 minutes. Like he's already played a lot of minutes this year. He's had a couple 37. I don't think he's played 40, but he's had a couple 37, 38, 39 minute kind of games.
He's averaging 30.2 minutes a game.
Oh, just 30?
Yeah, that's still insane for a big man in the SEC.
It is.
That's a lot.
That's so weird. I'm gonna pull up his splits now because I feel like he's maybe had a lot lately. But the point is, it feels like he's just maybe a little bit less energetic on the offensive end of the floor than he was in the early part of the season. And a part of that is probably because he has less energy because he's doing it defensively. But it just seems like he's settling. Not that he's ever like a super attacker, and we did see him drive the lane and have a nice left-handed flush against Texas A&M. But at least in this Auburn game, it just felt like settling for a few more like turnaround 8-foot jump hooks, which a lot of that has to do with Wiley being an elite rim protector. So Mike knows better than to challenge him because Mike's got a 10-inch vertical or whatever. So you're not going to go yam on Austin Wiley, but you would just like to see maybe a little bit more of an aggressive mentality, get to the line. He's not even a great free throw shooter, but whenever I see him just settling for like a hook shot and then a hook shot and then like a little turnaround bank or whatever. I'm like, that's what Mike Kotsar was for most of the first 3 years.
A little timid.
Yeah, and his being in attack mode for the first 15, 16 games of the season was why he was, like 10-8 or 11-8 or whatever he was through the first part of the season.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know if he's wearing down, but he's got a lot of pressure on him to do a lot of different things. Be a leader, be an offensive threat, be a defensive threat, and there's only so much Mike can do, and you saw that in the non-con where they struggled at times because they were lumping a lot of that on Mike. So you expect him to kind of – it's weird to say you expect him to regress more to the mean and the positive because now he's not averaging a lot in SEC play, but you expect him to get back to that 8 to 6 range.
Right.
And if he can give you that and Manaya's still doing what he's doing – and Kustar's playing well, that's
you get Bryant back in the fold.
And you get Bryant back into the fold, and hopefully AJ gets back to where he was at times this year, and then obviously last year. You feel good about where this offense is if you can get Mike back to that point too, and with him still playing as good of a defense as he is currently.
As well as he was playing offensively, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then when I finally accepted that this is who he's going to be for his entire senior year, and he's just going to be an improved offensive player, that's when he went 0 and then 6 and then 6. So he just waited for me to believe in him to quit scoring. And, part of that is, and I forgot that he only played 12 minutes against Kentucky, which brings the average down a little bit. So 0 of 1 in just 12 minutes against Kentucky, but 3 of 11 against A&M, 3 of 8 against Auburn. And as I'm looking at his minutes, like I said, the 12 does bring it down. It was 35 against Auburn, 37 against A&M, 33 against Tennessee, 36 against Florida, 31 against Virginia, 36 against Clemson, 38 against George Washington. So it hasn't been as high as I thought, and certainly the 12 brings it down a little bit. But in the since December 1st, he's only played fewer than 30 minutes a game twice, excluding that Kentucky game. It was 28 against Stetson and 27 against UMass. But you are buying this slight offensive regression?
Yeah, I mean, to a degree. Okay. I think it's just because, teams are keen on it a little bit more.
And again, the other part is it's not like if he's not scoring, he's not doing anything because the defense is still really good.
Oh, he's their best. Outside of Manai, he's probably their best all-around player.
And 8 rebounds. I've been impressed with the way he's attacked the glass, even though he wasn't attacking offensively. Yeah, there were a couple big rebounds that he got where he snatched the ball away from someone, and I was like, is that really Mike?
And that's what you need from him. Right. You don't need him to go out there and score 25 like he did against Mississippi State.
And 5 assists again.
Yeah, you need that from him. And because you have scores on this team that have the capability to do it, now, consistency is obviously a problem, but you have guys that can score. You needed Mike to go for 17 a night in the non-con, but you don't need that right now. So you need him to be a distributor. You need him to rebound. You need him to play great defense.
And as far as I'm concerned, he's still on triple-double watch for me, or at least 5x5 watch. I say at least. That's probably harder than triple-double.
Yeah.
Because Mike Kotsar's not going to get 5 blocks in a game. He could totally get, 5x5 watch. Do we count it if he has at least 5 points, at least 5 rebounds, at least 5 assists, at least 5 steals, and he fouls out?
Oh.
That's a 5. I don't know. I mean, that's not normally the 5. Normally it's blocks. I don't think he counts turnovers either, but he doesn't turn it over a ton. But I could totally see him having like a 5-6-6, 5 steal and foul out kind of game. Because he's had 3 or 4 steals in a game this year.
Yeah, he's like 5th or 6th in the SEC in steals this year.
He's got great hands on those ball denials.
Dude, he like that, and his footwork is just so beautiful sometimes defensively, and hell, he can guard 2 through 5, which is amazing. Like just the fact that I have a slight man crush sometimes on Mike Kotsar.
I can tell.
Because he's so good, and
as good of a senior year as he's having, it's hard not to.
Did you see the girl who, I think it was his girlfriend, put my tweet on a shirt?
No.
From him. So it says Mike Kotsar, and she like put it on a shirt.
That's awesome.
It's one of my ultimate professional achievements. I can retire now.
Big time.
I had to humble brag at that point, but
no, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess it was his girlfriend. I saw him at the grocery store with somebody, and that's the only time I've ever. I don't know if that was the same person, and she wasn't wearing the shirt then, so I don't know if.
No, you would know. But it was awesome. I get the tweet notification. I'm like, this can't be real, and I can't wait to hopefully see it at a game. So
you need one.
I know, right? So if you're listening, please wear it to a game. Please introduce yourself. I would love to get a picture.
Yeah,
because that is phenomenal. That is the highlight of my professional.
A picture,
career so
and then you need a T-shirt. How many of those do you think they can sell at the Colonial Life Arena? I mean, that'd probably be illegal because vendor things, but
John Rothstein does it. He'll sell his weird Twitter slogans. Let's get a Mike Kotsar T-shirt. Let's get a company and in Columbia to print Mike Goatsart t-shirts.
They'll print him once he gets either that triple-double or the 5x5. And I don't know. I'm inclined to count 5 steals and then fouling out. But if y'all have any huge problem with it, let us know in the comments or
Angry
something.
tweet
like
Wes Mitchell and Chris Clark.
Yeah. At Wes Mitchell GC and at GC Chris Clark. Anything else to say about the Auburn game?
No, I think we covered it.
I'm looking at it, and it's there's not a lot to say. Auburn's just better, but there's a lot to say.
Yeah, Auburn's better. Devin Cambridge went off. Probably never going to do that again. And South Carolina's guards need to defend better and shoot better.
Andrew Nembhard hadn't scored as many as he scored against Carolina since, right?
Let's look. This is
I'm wondering how many one-off performances South Carolina is going to be on the other side of.
Probably a lot.
And it was an all-around outstanding performance from Nembhard, but and he's going to drop dimes and run the offense like he does, but he just doesn't normally score that much.
So it took him he scored 21 against South Carolina. It took him 3 games to get to over 21 points again. He went 8, 10, 16, and 15.
8, 10, 16, 15. Okay, and actually, as I'm looking at it, the game before, that was a double overtime game against Alabama, so you kind of throw that one out. He scored 25, and then before that, his season high was just 16, which he scored against St. Joe's. There you go. Who's 4-15 right now. All right, we're down the rabbit hole of me just like clicking on stuff on ESPN.
I do that every now and again, like baseball reference pages. My roommate and I got into it. I ended up on Kosuke Fukudome's like baseball reference page the other day.
That's a good one.
I miss Kosuke.
Wait, how did you get there?
I'm a Cubs fan, and there's a soft spot in my heart for Kosuke Fukudome.
So you just went to him directly?
Well, no, we were talking about like players that we just have this weird like relationship with.
Okay.
It was on the Hall of Fame night, so we were
yeah.
going through that.
Is he your favorite player?
Of all time?
Yeah.
No.
Who's your favorite player?
Derek Lee.
Oh, okay.
Love Derek Lee.
Do you want to... So, I'm going to throw you off the scent here.
Okay.
I grew up around here, and I grew up a Braves fan. I used to love Javi Lopez. Apparently, when I was little, that was like one of the first things that I said was Javi Lopez. I used to just jump up and down on the couch and like scream Javi Lopez. So, I love Javi. Who is my favorite baseball player of all time? And I only told you that as a red herring.
It's not Dale Murphy.
No.
Because I feel like I have a lot of opinions on Dale Murphy. So is it a Braves player?
No. I only told you that to distract you.
Yeah.
This is a random one, but he is an all-time great baseball player, and I think he's 3 years away from being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Maybe 4. Oh, shoot, I can't remember.
Is it Gary Sheffield?
No. Great guess, though. I do love Gary Sheffield.
Who doesn't love Gary Sheffield?
Okay, I'm just going to tell you because there's no way you're going to guess it. My favorite baseball player ever, what made me think of it is we were talking about Fukudome, and he is Japanese, as is Ichiro.
Oh.
He's my favorite. When I played MLB baseball, I don't know, one of the ones for N64, 2001 or 2002, I was always the Mariners.
Ichiro was so much fun.
Yeah.
I loved him.
Because he had like a billion speed.
Yeah.
He's great. It's my favorite. I don't know why. Well, I mean, I do know why, because I like playing with the Mariners, but there were a lot of good leadoff hitters in that game. I don't know why I gravitated to Ichiro, but I just thought he was the coolest.
That's why, like, growing up, like, Mike Vick and Dante Culpepper were 2 of my favorites, because I used to play, like, Madden, like, I forget what year it was, maybe 07 or whatever, on, like, the GameCube, my GameCube. But Mike Vick was unstoppable, and Dante Culpepper had the arm to end all arms, so you could just run like 4 verts and just bomb it on people, and like Dante Culpepper could throw it 60 yards downfield. It was awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so funny how much playing video games has colored our generation's opinions about different athletes. Yes. I'm looking now because didn't Ichiro have like 12 straight seasons with 200 hits or something stupid?
See, now
like
we're
that?
on a baseball reference. Like
I know. Yeah,
like
see,
now
yeah,
we're down the rabbit hole.
Wait, how did we do this? We were trying to get off of this,
yeah.
and then we did exactly the same thing, but for baseball players instead.
Yeah.
Okay, South Carolina lost to Auburn. They're 2-3 in conference play. Their next 5 games: Vanderbilt at home, at Arkansas, home against Missouri, at Ole Miss, home against Texas A&M again.
4 very winnable games.
Have to go 4-1.
Yes,
5-0 is not ridiculous.
No, Arkansas is a very soft 14-4.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably your toughest game because that Bud Walton's very hard to play in. But 3 of these 5 teams have losing records. No, sub-5. 2 of these teams have losing records. One, Missouri is, I think, 500.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas A&M is 1 game above 500, and you beat them by 14 on the road.
Or we can do it like this. South Carolina's next 5 conference opponents have a combined 8 conference wins.
Yeah, like that's
3 for Arkansas, 2 for Texas A&M, and
1.
Oh, that was including Auburn. I did that stat earlier this week. So Carolina's next 6 opponents before the Auburn game had 8 conference wins. So now you take away 3 of those, and you say their next 5 conference opponents have 5 conference wins.
Yeah.
3 for Arkansas, 2 for A&M, none for Ole Miss, none for Vanderbilt.
1 for Missouri.
Oh, yeah, 1 for
Missouri won.
Okay, 6.
Yeah,
that's right. I didn't update that stat in my brain after Monday.
It's very this is as good of a stretch as you could possibly ask for coming off what you just came off, where you play, probably thinking of it, Florida and Kentucky and
Definitely
Auburn.
tournament teams.
Three surefire Auburn or tournament teams.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee's a French team. Probably an IT is what I'm expecting with them if they go to a postseason. And then Texas A&M
not good.
on the road, but you're down 3 players.
Right.
So that was a tough stretch. It's not going to get a whole lot tougher than that for you.
No. I mean, the last 8 games that you play, Georgia twice, which only scares you because you never know when Anthony Edwards is just going to go off for
That
29.
feels like a Christian Brown game, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because like from LR.
Yeah. So you have that. You have LSU. Mississippi State's playing pretty well, and you have 2 with them.
Yeah.
What are they? Are they 3-3?
Something like that.
3-3, 4-2?
They are 3-3, but I mean, they just beat Arkansas.
Right.
By 7, wallop Georgia, wallop Missouri. They're playing pretty well right now.
So that's a tough stretch, but this is where you make your hay. 4-1 and you stay on pace.
You have a chance to gain
and
some
you're
ground.
a front runner. You're gaining ground at that point. It starts with Vanderbilt, and Carolina's good enough to beat Vanderbilt, like with the roster constituted against Auburn. Vanderbilt's a mess. Obviously,
they've lost 6 straight games.
They've lost 6 straight games, and then in conference play, they obviously losing Aaron Nesmith is a huge loss.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was unbelievable. So I was
SEC
looking,
Player of the Year candidate
for sure.
Aaron Nesmith.
I mean, he was averaging 23-5. He was shooting 52% from the field and like 50% from 3. He was unbelievable. And I was looking at his stats last year. He was like 11 points a game, like shot pretty well. But the leap that he took this, I mean, he was solid.
Yeah, he was freshman, considered like a top, right there with AJ Lawson in terms of NBA prospect.
And then the leap that he made to all of a sudden be one of the best guys in the SEC. He got hurt in that conference opening game against Texas A&M. They lost that game by just 4, and then since then they've lost by like 20 and 22 and 15 and 14. Like it's gone off the rails, and you feel bad for him because there's not much you can do when you lose a guy like that.
That roster's so depleted after. I mean, you brought in Nesmith and Simi Shidu and Darius Garland last year. You had 3 NBA prospects on the team, and now all 3 are out.
Gone.
Yeah, so it's.
But you know who they do have?
Scottie Pippen.
They got freaking Scottie Pippen.
Pippen, yeah.
And he's all right. He's like
Jerry
11-5.
Jerry Stackhouse and Scottie Pippen's kid.
I know. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
That's fantastic. That's like if you're looking for some reason to get excited to watch Vanderbilt basketball. And again, like I haven't watched a ton of Vanderbilt this year because they haven't been worth watching. But Pippen's fine, like 11-5 or 4.5 or whatever it is. But
there's plenty of points to go around with Nesmith out. I mean, plenty of points.
23 points. I just can't believe how efficiently he was scoring.
Yeah, I mean,
and through 14 games, it was absolutely spectacular for him. If you're a Carolina fan, obviously great news. It's not like they were playing that well with him anyway, although they did have Auburn a little bit on the ropes there early in SEC play. But for Carolina, they should be able to win that Vanderbilt game as presently constituted.
Yes, but without Keyshawn Bryant, without Trey Hannibal.
Exactly. Yeah. But like if they do what they did against Auburn, they'll beat Vanderbilt by probably 10 or 11 or 12 or 15 or something. But Keyshawn Bryant has been medically cleared to play, and now it's just a matter of how he looks and feels in practice. Do you have any more information on that or any inclination one way or the other?
Frank seemed somewhat optimistic. They practiced today, this afternoon. He'll know more tonight and tomorrow how Keyshawn responds. We haven't been told if he's concussion protocol or not. The problem with Keyshawn is he has those migraine situations, so when he blows to the head, kind of exacerbate that. We'll know more kind of moving into. We have availability with some players tomorrow, so you'll kind of get a sense of what that's like then.
So check your Twitter feed at Collyn Taylor with a Y.
Yes, please. Give me a follow and don't angry tweet me.
And make shirts out of his tweets.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll know more. They're probably still evaluating, and with head injuries, it's not immediate. You can practice, or he wasn't fully cleared to do a whole lot, just some on-court stuff, and they'll kind of see how he goes forward tonight and tomorrow and kind of see through probably shoot around. I think it'll be more of a game time decision than anything else.
Trey Hannibal, if we say that Keyshawn Bryant is like questionable to probable. It sounds like Trey Hannibal is questionable to doubtful.
Doubtful, yeah.
How long is this going to be? Because I get a bad feeling reading between the lines and what Frank has to say that this could be something that sidelines him for a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the worst of it's over. You sprain your ankle and it swells up like crazy, and then once the swelling goes down, then it's just kind of about letting the muscles get a little bit stronger, regain some, strength there, and start to play on it. Do I anticipate him playing against Vanderbilt? No, but I think there's an outside shot against Arkansas to play, and then you're probably looking at maybe more towards Missouri is when I would anticipate him back. But if he comes out there and says, my ankle feels great, I mean, let him go.
This is a game, though, that you can afford to give him an extra couple days to rest that ankle if it's not 100%.
Yeah. Vanderbilt's just not, they're not good.
Yeah, I feel like we've done a good job with our breakdowns of upcoming teams. I don't have much to say about Vanderbilt. Yeah, Carolina should win this. And it's just so hard because like you look at all their team stats, and they're not that good anyway. And then when you factor Naismith out of it.
In 5 conference games, they're last in offensive efficiency, 12th in defensive efficiency, last in effective field goal percentage, 12th in effective field goal percentage against, 11th in turnover rate. They're actually pretty good at turning the ball or forcing turnovers. 13th in offensive rebound rate, 11th in offensive rebound rate against, last in 3-point percentage, 11th in 2-point percentage, 9th in free throw percentage, 13th in 2-point percentage against. They're pretty good at defending the 3. Don't block shots, get a lot of shots blocked. They just don't turn the ball over. It's about as bottom feeder as you can get. And it's just where that roster is right now.
Worth pointing out, Vanderbilt would probably beat Stetson.
Yes. They are better than Stetson.
They're better than Stetson. And they have Jerry Stackhouse on the sideline, which is cool.
Yeah.
So go to the game and see Jerry Stackhouse.
Yeah.
It's Scottie Pippen's kid.
Yeah, like that's...
And it's primetime. It was funny. When I was editing the podcast, what's today? Oh my gosh, it's Thursday. When I was editing our Tuesday podcast, I realized when I was looking at the game time of the Auburn game, I got all excited. I was like, ooh, that's a primetime game, because on Tuesday, I was thinking it felt like Friday. Monday was a long day. Felt like Friday, and I was like, ooh, primetime. And I listened back to it. I was like, of course it's primetime. They're not going to play any other time.
Freaking Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, you moron. So I got that one wrong. But Vanderbilt is actually a primetime game.
I hate 8 p.m. tips on Saturday.
Do you?
Well, I'm like curmudgeon-y and an old sports journalist, so I'm gonna
okay. So you're thinking like deadline, not like
I'm just thinking
8 o'clock
like
tip means I don't get
like
get a head
I want a
start on
Saturday
night.
Yeah, I want a Saturday night in Columbia.
Yeah.
I love like a good noon.
I've kind of enjoyed the 1 o'clock tips.
Yeah, like give
but
me
I missed
a
the
1.
other one last week because I was playing tennis, so maybe I won't miss it this week.
Yeah, like the 1 o'clocks are great because you show up to the arena. Will call opens for media an hour and a half before, so you show up at 11:30.
Do you eat at the games?
Yeah, you can.
Do you?
I mean, sometimes.
Because don't they provide food?
I'm trying to watch my figure, man. Yeah, I got a wedding body to prepare for.
Wedding body, that's right.
It's been 3 hours and I haven't mentioned my wedding, so I'm legally and contractually
obligated. Wait, when is your wedding?
Bi-week football this year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you got
October 17th.
You got some time.
We are registered at Amazon, Target.
Excellent. Dude, why not?
Yeah, Bed Bath & Beyond. No, but yeah, they feed us. You can go get concession food. So it's like a cheeseburger or...
Do you eat the media food or the concession food?
It's the media food is the concession food. So they give us like a voucher.
Oh, okay.
And you can get a cheeseburger basket or a chicken tender basket. And that's for football and baseball. And there's only so many chicken tenders. And
well, football, they have the spread.
Yeah, football, they have the spread.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I like, for the most part, I like that.
Yeah.
There's the only part that's weird for football, and I know we're digressing from Vanderbilt, but you don't really want to talk about
not
basketball.
really.
Is sometimes it's weird. So like for noon kicks, they'll have, it's like you eat about 2 hours before the game. So noon, you're eating about 10 a.m. Sometimes they'll feed you lunch food. So you'll get like brisket at 10 a.m. And like, I love a good brisket. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not in the mental state to eat brisket then. And it's good brisket. It's very good. But it's just like, the weirdest one was Outback Bowl. Because that kicked off at like 11 or something like that. Or noon. And they feed you Outback Steakhouse at the Outback Bowl.
Oh.
So it's like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. And you're scarfing down like steak bites.
Yeah, and it's not even like steak and eggs.
No, it's just like steak and like salad. They do give you the bread though. The bread from Outback. like in role form.
We're making people jealous. And the reason that I ask, because you're like, wait, you're in the media too. Why don't you? I've gotten credentialed to basketball. I have a credential. I just don't often use it because I usually sit with my roommate like in the actual bowl. And then the times that I have sat in the media section of basketball games, I have not eaten because I'm also trying to watch my figure. So I usually just don't. So I was just curious. Just had to know.
Yeah.
I guess you can't drink either. Which
No.
does that make it? Were you like rooting for them to not approve alcohol sales at Carolina sporting events because it's going to make you jealous?
No, there was like a guy in the media section at the women's game on what was that Monday? I went with a beer in like the media section,
and that's just like generally taboo, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, you can't do
like
that.
Shu wouldn't say anything to you.
No, Shu wouldn't. Because
would Wes or Chris fuss at you?
I don't know. Like it's weird.
Chris is definitely like I feel like he's the grandfather.
Yeah. Chris, don't listen to this. I like.
No, I don't think I have to worry about Wes or Chris
it's just
listening.
weird.
Wes is the fun uncle. Chris is like the curmudgeonly grandfather of Gamecock Central.
He's like the dad of everything. Where it's like, where he gets hurt all the time. I play soccer with him. And
oh, you play? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Every night.
I didn't know.
Chris,
that.
if you're listening to this, I probably won't be there tomorrow morning.
Yeah,
sleep.
I
but
also feel bad because I don't mean to say that Chris is a curmudgeonly grandfather.
He's a really good soccer player. He's
so that's
really, really good.
I have surmised as much, but he told me he didn't play growing up, which surprises me.
Yeah, he's so damn quick. And there
Low
are
center of gravity.
Yeah. Wow, that's cold blooded.
This is so bad.
That's cold blooded.
I really love Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm being mean.
Yeah, I've played with him, and there are times where he beats me off the bounce, and I'm like huffing and puffing to try to keep up with the man. And I'm 24 going on 25.
He's 33, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those where he's outrunning me. Now, granted, he weighs a lot less than me, but yeah. Whew. So
good job, Chris. Wait, why are we talking about Chris and Wes?
about alcohol.
Beer.
Yeah, no, it's just it would be very taboo.
Okay, so what did you think when you saw the media member with the beer and the?
I'm like, what the hell are you doing, bud? Like,
so there's a little judgment there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of judgment because I'd never seen it before, so I was like,
yeah.
I
but
first
as long as
thought
you're not getting trashed, it's fine, right?
Like, and I thought it was a fan at first that just didn't know where he was
media
sitting,
section.
and I'm like, because like there are people that walk over there to say hey, like if they know someone in the media or whatever, they come over and say hey, and I just thought he was like a fan that wandered over there and no one said anything to him, but he like sat there and like watched the entire game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the odds that you do that at some point are 0?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
There are teams that like feed you beer after games. I think LSU feeds the media beer after games.
That's such an LSU thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's
that's pretty great. Okay, so do we have anything we want to say about Vanderbilt? I mean, Carolina can totally lose this game.
Yes.
If they turn the ball over.
If they play like they're doing at Stetson. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we didn't do a podcast after Stetson, did we? Have we started doing the pods at that point?
I don't think so. We might have. I just don't know but that was like right around the New Year's.
I mean, I really can't remember because I'm trying to think about how that game went, and I really don't know. Like, I know how the game went. I watched
it was bad. Whatever it was bad.
So,
but South Carolina have to
avoid
turn. You got to get good point guard play. I think they've kind of figured out. They were still kind of in flux of trying to figure out their guard play, and you figured that out a little bit. So I don't think the poor performance is going to necessarily replicate itself against Vanderbilt. Now, would it shock me if this was like a 5-point game with 4 minutes to go? No, but
Carolina plays a lot of close games on both sides.
Yeah.
Now, this is, I guess, also worth pointing out. This is the first time Carolina's been favored in conference play.
Yes.
And they have like an 80% chance to win, according to BPI.
Yeah, I mean, Ken Palm gives them a 79% chance to win and predicts them to win by 9. So that's kind of what I'd expect. I mean, if they win by 9, 10, 11, they're more. If I had to pick a more talented team, it'd be South Carolina. They're more
unquestionable.
Yeah, they're more talented. Saban Lee's good, but he's kind of their entire offense. And
right, 5 assists again. I think he's 15-5, something like that. 16-5.
He's been used in almost 30% of their possessions, and it's just they ride or die pretty much with their starting 5.
So Vanderbilt's last conference win probably would have been like January 2018, because they haven't won this year. They went winless last year.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Their last conference win, March 3rd against Ole Miss.
March 2018.
Yes.
So if you're Carolina, keep that streak going.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
But doesn't that just?
Yeah.
I can't even say it.
This is very much a trap game to where you're coming off a very emotional game against Auburn.
And you have at Arkansas, right on the
next.
other side.
It's late. If they don't come to play, Vanderbilt could very much beat them. But I think that they're going to avoid that, knowing how much this means to their just overall conference champion. Because if they lose this game, I mean,
right? Yeah, because on the one hand, if you lose this game, it
derails a lot of it.
That's the worst loss that you could possibly get in conference play, especially because it's at home. But then it also wouldn't surprise me if Carolina still salvaged 4-1 in that stretch and beat Arkansas on the road, beat Ole Miss, beat Missouri, and beat Texas A&M. Not in that order because I flipped the middle too. But it's hard to know. You would like to think this team is stabilizing, and it feels like it is. Manaya's a little more stable. Kotsar's he's regressed a little bit, but you still feel pretty good that you're going to get 8 and 7 and some assists and a lot of really good defense out of him. Kusnard looks consistent. Bolden didn't have a good game on Wednesday.
But he's capable.
Wednesday.
If we're going to compare him to Devin Cambridge, he is capable.
He can go off. He can go off for 22 against Virginia or 19 against Texas A&M. 10 on 4 of 12 shooting. You just replicate everything about this exact performance that Carolina had against Auburn, and they win this game against Vanderbilt comfortably.
Yeah, I think so.
What about if they replicate their performance against Tennessee? Still a win? Because that's their worst performance in SEC play.
Still a win, not as comfortable.
That's when you're only up by 5 with 4 to go.
But Vanderbilt's just so bad offensively, and they just can't shoot. I mean, when they're shooting 21% in SEC play against, 21% from 3, 45% from 2, 72% from the line. They have an effective field goal percentage in the 30s, 39.4. I mean, that's just, you don't win doing that. Now, I say that, and Vanderbilt's going to go off and shoot 60% and score 90 points.
In the same way that Jair Bolden can be Devin Cambridge, they might have their own Devin Cambridge or Cambridges.
So it's just one of those things where if you're caught napping, Vanderbilt can sneak up on you. But if you replicate pretty much any performance in SEC play, you're going to win this game.
I got to shout out Nathan, who hit both of us on Twitter during the game last night, made a halftime adjustment with a hashtag reverse jinx. He threw on the Auburn shirt.
Yes.
I didn't ask Nathan why he has an Auburn shirt, and it didn't exactly work, but I love the spirit of it.
Yes,
and thank you for listening.
And I think I tweeted back to him, I was like, listen, you probably have an Auburn shirt for a reason. Family member goes there. You went there, whatever it was. But I do like to picture, him having, 13 other shirts in his closet,
just in case.
And he's like, "Oh hell, it's time. Put my Texas A&M shirt on. It's time to."
They
go.
also have tags. He just whenever he needs to break one out.
Yeah. So
I don't know, but
I like that thought.
Yeah, but thank you for doing that, Nathan. It was a valiant effort, and once Carolina cut it to 59-58 there in the second half.
They were trailing by 1.
Yeah. I mean, they had a chance, and I would like to think it was because of your energy.
That was the shirt.
Yeah, that was the shirt, and only if more people had done that, Carolina would have been able to get over the hump.
So this isn't on South Carolina. This is on the fans.
Yeah,
let's just blame the fans at this point.
Everyone needs to follow Nathan's advice.
Please don't anger me.
So, yeah. But thank you for doing that, Nathan, and thanks for listening, and thank you all for listening. And if you like what we do and you want to hear more of it, we want to hear your feedback. I already mentioned at Collyn Taylor with a Y, at Pearson Fowler on Twitter. You just want to interact with us during the game, give us any feedback, anything you like or hate about the podcast. We want to hear about it. You can also leave it in a review when you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast and everything else on the Gamecock Central Podcast Network. And of course, be sure to check out GamecockCentral.com for everything that we don't get a chance to talk about, because we talk for usually about an hour, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on. You write about 45 things a day, and Carolina fans should read them to stay up to date. So
help pay my bills.
Help pay Collyn's bills. That'll do it for us for this week. Y'all go to the Vanderbilt game, say hey to Jerry Stackhouse, say hey to Scottie Pippen's kid, and Collyn and I will be back on Tuesday to break down the Vanderbilt game and look ahead to Arkansas. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you then. You're closer to matching my eye level when you're sitting down and I'm standing up. But all right, here we go.